Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here. We're joined by Rosie Lopez-Gras, who is an industry expert in the global ops world. I also have Andrew Anderson with me, who is our API technical expert. He has a lot of expertise with building API queries and kind of figuring out exactly what the team needs. So we're really grateful to have both of you on. I'm a product manager here at Athennian, and we've been hard at work building some of the latest features we're going to run through today. But just to kick it off, we're starting a new series of webinars, which you can expect monthly. We'll run through dates towards the end of the presentation. But we're very excited because this is going to be something that will happen on a regular basis. Today, we're going to be diving through all the features we have recently built, as well as what is coming. So we have kind of two different groups of things that we'll be touching on. To start, just move my screen here. Perfect. Before we get started, just some housekeeping items for everyone that continues to trickle in. You will be getting an email with a link to download this deck. So everything in the presentation today will be available to you. You can send it out to your team. You can send it out to managers. We really don't mind. So keep an eye out for that. The recording is also going to be available soon. So if you do want to share it with the company and have another listen again, we will be making that available. And then as we're kind of running through these features and updates, please feel free. You'll notice there is a little question and comment box in your view. Please feel free to put through any questions that you have. Andrew is going to be kind of manning the channel as well to see if he can answer anything as we go. But we will have a question and answer section towards the end for about 10 minutes. And we really want to hear what you think. So please feel free to put that in the box. And then we'll be doing a little webinar survey as well. So please give us your feedback if you liked it, if you didn't, something you would change, something you might wanted to have heard and didn't. Feel free to send all of that through as well. All right, so to start, what we're going to cover today, we're going to recap all of the recent updates we have launched as a team. Athennian has been very hard at work, kind of working towards getting one version of the app, pushing out a lot of value across many, many different sections. So we're going to touch on everything we have launched over the past couple of months. Then we're going to dive into something very exciting. We're going to give you a bit of a sneak peek of what's coming soon within the next couple of weeks. So it's not going to be that long. You should, within the next few weeks, see these changes or hear about them, or client success will reach out to you about them too. But we wanted to give you that sneak peek first so you can kind of see what's coming firsthand. And then we're going to walk through, instead of just diving into features individually, we're going to walk through exactly how they can impact your workflows and processes today. So it's one thing to say, oh, it drives efficiency and oh, it brings this, but it's really beneficial to tell you when you are doing the following, this is how you can integrate it into your workflows. We want it to be really valuable and give proper full life examples. So that'll be coming, and Rosie will touch on that too. And then we'll dive into the Q&A. So short, sweet, simple, but we're really looking forward to it. All right, let's kick off with the recent updates. So the first thing we want to touch on, we're going to run through 3 themes. So instead of just going through each individual feature, we noticed with all the feedback clients were sending through over the past couple of months that there were 3 very distinct themes where we needed to provide more value. And as a product manager and a product team, this is kind of what we look for because it's going to answer how we bring value to all of our different types of clients instead of just bringing specific features to specific clients. We noticed that robust permissions were a big need. As you know, the restricted teams that we had available on the previous version of Athennian was not enough for the teams to manage data and access across users and teams. So we had to really make that better. The second piece was data overview and tailoring. What we had noticed was a lot of the feedback that was coming through from teams, specifically service providers when they were working with attorneys and lawyers, and then our corporate teams when they had different departments trying to access Athennian, was that we were not very good at giving you access to only the information you needed and not more. So you were kind of left fumbling through all of the valuable data we provide, but sometimes too much is not really a good thing. So tailoring that view to make it more unique to your use case and your needs was something we had to address. And then accurate information types, specifically in securities. We know that there are lots of different types of data across the world, globally. You manage many, many different things, and it's called different things as well. But fine-tuning exactly, getting it right in the security section in terms of what type of capital we address and what we offer, we had to work on that as well. So those are the three themes. We'll touch on how each feature plays into each theme as well. But just so you know how we think about it, this is what we look at when we're taking your feedback. All right, so to jump into the first slide, we are looking at roles and permissions. So you will have noticed in Athennian on this latest version that there is a new access section at the bottom left of your screen. Previously, we had restricted teams. And like we said, with that kind of theme of the feedback we were receiving, permissioning was not robust enough. We had to make some pretty big changes to drive value in this area for you and your teams. And with the access section, we can now completely change the way you manage data, you manage groups of data, and you manage the people accessing those groups of data. So giving you more control over that. We will touch on which plans all of these features are available on. So please make note if there is something you see that you don't have today, let's reach out to our client success managers or our support team and we can help you out with that. But for the roles and permissions or the access group, you will see it on all three plans. So whether you're on the essentials, the professional, or the enterprise package, you should have this available to you and your team. Now, in terms of what we've launched, we allow you to now organize people and entities into groups, which with restricted teams, we couldn't do that previously. We had very segmented ways of approaching access in this kind of format, but now you've kind of eliminated that completely. We can always control access as well without losing visibility. So a big thing previously with restricted teams was you would have entities and kind of groups of information set up on separate islands, and you couldn't see at a high level how this data kind of correlated with everything and how it was all connected at that level overview from an admin perspective, which wasn't helpful at all. So in today's update, you have the audit trails, you can see everything you have access to, and we can kind of manage that at that high level group. And then we can track everything as well. So those audit logs are going to be really helpful when you're trying to see who's made changes, when changes have been made, and you can export and filter all that data. So a lot of value there. Now, moving on, that was our base. And kind of as we progressed in refining this a little bit more, we also know that personal identifiable information is something very, very key that people manage in the application. This is usually found on people information. And what we've noticed is often you have users that have very specific roles in companies that need access to this data, but they don't always want to share it with everyone else in the team. So how do we address that need? And I'm going to be asking Rosie a little question towards the end of the slide as well with how she's experienced managing this too. But we released personal identifiable information restriction. So what this does is it restricts a user's view on the personal identifiable information in a people section. It also restricts their access to templates that could generate that information, and it hides it in custom reports. So you can now track licenses, expiry dates, all of that information in terms of data fields. But if you don't want someone to have access to that, you can restrict it at the user level. So Rosie, I think I'll just hand it over to you. In terms of your industry experience and kind of how you and your teams used to work with this when you were back in the corporate world, can you tell me a little bit about the value that this will bring the teams?
Yes, Shirley, and this is actually has been a game changer to our customers. Having access and sharing this very sensitive information, it's always a concern. It's always a concern who sees it, who accesses it, who shares it, who's on the other side receiving the information. So there are two critical workflows that happen on a day-to-day basis that I can think of where this information is shared, and now the teams working on Athennian can have more confidence about how they have access and who do they restrict this information from. One of them being KYC requests. So with KYC, PII is always a key element of that. They're asking for passport information, for a proof of address. So now having a way to sharing these and just restricting the access to certain people it's a better way to work around KYC requests. And another key process is the ones related to reporting who the ultimate beneficial ownership is. So now with the newly enacted Corporate Transparency Act in the US, you have to share personal information, addresses, passports, ID, etc., for the beneficial owners. But also, this is a recent legislation that's coming up in the UK with the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act. They are looking to validate that the directors are who they say they are. So again, personal information from the directors, it has to be shared. So having the possibility to control the access to PII comes up at a perfect time where companies are preparing to comply with this new legislation, but also to confidently manage KYC requests, for example.
Yeah, that's spot on, Rosie. And I know, like, from a product perspective too, when we were building this, it was really difficult because we can manage the information in Athennian. We have all these users that have access to it, but how do you communicate that something exists but can't be seen because you don't have the access to see it, so you make the right decisions too, right? Like you're saying, for the ultimate beneficial owners, if I am not allowed to see PII information, but I come into an entity, I should still know that it's there because I need to be making the right decisions with that information. So it was a catch-22 too when we were building this, because it's like, you have access to either see it and use it, and you should have access to any templates that are generated from it. But then how do we also provide visibility without risking the security of the information? So we're excited about this. And I agree, I think with all of the things coming out and all the acts and the laws, we can definitely fine tune this to work for the different teams. There are still documents and that kind of thing that we need to look at as well, but it's a good start. And I think we're on the right track. And also, just as a note, this is available on professional and enterprise packages. So it's not included in essentials. If you are interested in it, let us know, and then we can have a chat and make sure you guys have everything you need to make the right decisions. All right, the next one that we have is overview and customizations. Now, as we had mentioned in terms of the themes, again, we can give you all the access to the information you need, and Athennian is a business intelligence tool. So often when you sign in, you see so much information, you don't know where to find what you're looking for. And it's wonderful, right? Because it's a source for you to use. But if we're not driving efficiency by just giving you what you need to see quickly, it doesn't help your workflows. So with the overview and list customizations, there were two areas we wanted to start touching on first, and that is the entity list overview, and within an entity, the overall overview. So we know a very common workflow is for attorneys or lawyers to sign in, go straight to the entity overview and look at who the contact on file is, or who the business address, or what the ownership looks like maybe. And likewise for tax teams and finance teams to come in right off the bat, only see what they need from the entity overview list, not see more than that. They don't need to see the minute book number. They don't need to see the client numbers maybe, and just giving that tailored view to each user. So the neat part of these features is that we can customize this on a user basis. So as a finance person, if you're training on Athennian, you can set up your views, set up your filters, set up your templates, and make sure when you come in, it's applicable to you. There are no caps on the amounts of views we offer for your team. So depending on the different roles your users have, how many people in each department, you can tweak this to meet your workflows and requirements, and you can incorporate it in your training processes. So for our larger clients, like our fund ops, if you have 300, 400 people that you're looking at giving access to the application, you can use this as a training step to say, okay, set up your views, get used to the information, tailor it to what you need, and then that is saved and set and ready to go. It's available on also professional and enterprise packages, but Rosie, I'm curious, you know the why as to why we've built this, but with your background and kind of the different teams you used to work with, I know you used a lot of tools, you used Notion, you used a lot of different other kind of softwares to get the same kind of outcome. Could you also tell us a little bit about how this will help your team just from your experience and what you remember?
Sure. The first thing that came to mind, it's time saving. Different teams will use or come to the entity information at different times of the year. Some teams, like legal, it's common for them to maybe check on the platform on a more daily basis. Tax team, some key people within finance team, but some teams, like I said, they would only go when a specific compliance is coming up, so they may just be on the platform a few times. So finding their way around the information that's relevant for them is key. So every time they log in, they don't have to remember, okay, how do I find this registration? How do I find the tax IDs? So they can tailor it. So as soon as they open the platform, they'll see exactly what they need, and they're not wasting their time or asking other people, where do I find the information on Athenian, or just trying to navigate themselves around the information. It's truly relevant for them.
Yeah.
That's critical for speed
Yeah.
to find information they need.
Yeah, speed and accuracy too, right? Like you can just
True.
use what you need to immediately.
Yeah.
And also just a little call out for all the current clients. We want to thank you for the way you've given us feedback on these features. We approached it, we launched them as beta features, and then we gathered live feedback as you were using them. And because of that, we were able to tailor them pretty quickly to really meet your exact needs, which is great. And also rolling forward, this is available in entity sections right now, but we want to hear from you. Do you want to see this in people sections? Do you want to see this in registrations? Where else do you want to see this kind of tailoring that would help you and your team as you start using it? So please send us that feedback. It's always welcome. And then on the next piece, just moving through, the next piece we're very excited about. We know as a workflow, whenever you use charts, it's either when you are forming an entity, when you are submitting requests by a bank because you're opening a new bank account, when you're fulfilling a KYC request, that kind of thing. It's never as easy as just generating the information into a chart and submitting it. That's often not the main piece of the workflow. The main piece of the workflow we found with all the feedback was, we have this accurate data, there's so much of it. Now we want to tailor it to be able to meet the request that we are trying to fulfill and not open doors for more questions. Like if a bank wants to see a very specific fund or a very specific ownership structure, often our clients were generating the charts, it was great, everything was accurate, but then they would export it, upload it into Visio, PowerPoint, something like that, edit the boxes, remove things, change colors, that kind of stuff. With these features, we're very excited because you can now manipulate and edit the charts in the application itself. So if you had to come in and generate an upward downward chart and you only wanted to see a very specific segment because you're trying to look for where funding is coming from, maybe you have NMF things that you need to make decisions for, you can now hide and expose the different entity boxes within the charts, hit apply, and that would save, and then you can export that view. It doesn't change the live data. As we know, data accuracy is key. We can't change things like entity names right off the bat in a chart. Lots of different people are going to have access to this, but what we can do is tweak what you're seeing to meet your workflow. We can save these filters. We can also, from these updates, save all of the feature or save all of the chart exports straight to documents. So as you know, we work well with PowerPoint Online. You can now save them to the documents section, open them up, edit them in there as well, which is huge. And then in addition to that, very often parent entities and subsidiaries have quite a number of classes listed in between the two of them. Let's say they have a bunch of common, a bunch of non-voting, and a bunch of preferred shares, maybe more than 8 or so in that structure. Previously, when we generated the charts, they would all expand to show you every single share class. But as we know, the bigger charts get and the bigger the ownership you're working with, that's not always relevant and you don't always need to see it. So by default, we will be collapsing that view. And if you wanted to expose the capital classes, you can show them to give you that kind of precise view of which classes meet what percentage of the ownership. But by default, we're making it easier for you to look at this information. So Rosie, I'll hand it to you as well. You are very involved with charts, I know, with your previous team too, but can you think of workflows as well that this will benefit? I know I touched on a few, but we're very excited about this, and I think you are as well.
Yeah, what I can tell you, how we did it before, or even without a platform like Athenian, this would be a very manual process. Every time you had a specific request for a particular view, you would have to edit it somewhere else. So on Visio or Miro, PowerPoint, whenever your team keeps track of your org chart. So we would have one that would have everything, but then it included, or it needed, this manual manipulation of tailoring every single view to the particular request. So having these now on Athenian, it doesn't, like, it just cuts that extra step of manipulating, editing charts outside of Athenian, but just having exactly the view that you need to be shared immediately.
It must save you money as well, I think. I would say too, like if you're buying a second software just to edit it, would you say that it would save significant amount, or yeah?
Yeah, we would always needed that extra software to do that. So now you don't need that. True. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and we're excited as well with some of the other features that are coming out, and Rosie will touch on them too. We also know that certain teams use charts and certain teams don't need to see other things, and we have a plan for that too. So we're very excited. Available on professional and enterprise as well. So if you are interested, let us know, and we can give you some more details on this piece. All right, next one is a quick one, but still a lot of value. It's available on all packages, essentials, all the way through to enterprise. And that is the introduction of cash, percentage, and share class ownership. So previously we only had, I believe, share and percentage. Now we have cash and percentage in addition to that. And again, it's just for accuracy. We know that it's very important with ownership data specifically to make sure that the terminology and the types and the roles and everything that we use are very accurate and very concise with industry standards. So Rosie, do you want to walk us through a little bit in terms of how much value this can bring as well? I know it's small, but I think it will make a big impact.
Yeah, and what I can say about this is that different metrics mean different things to different people. So as part of the communication regarding or based on who your target audience is, if it's an internal audience or an investor, etc., you want to use different metrics to convey the message that you want to. So this is how, although this is a small change, it's so powerful because you can choose and show the information in a way that is meaningful to whoever is receiving this information. So it's great for in terms of an analysis tool, but also as a capital planning tool. And again, just giving the teams the possibility of using the correct metric and the correct information, the correct data for analysis, for presentations, for different business goals that they may have.
Yeah, totally. And I also know, like previously when we were generating documents in security section and all of that, we would alter the code to try and make the metric display properly, even though we were using securities and we were using one language. Now we can do everything in app. So everything you see, history, as at dates, it's at the class level. So all the transactions that you issue from that class level will follow through with the metric you've assigned. Which again, it's needed. It's so necessary. So one, thank you for all the feedback from the people that have given us this feedback to improve. And two, we hope you enjoy the feature that's in all the packages. All right, let's jump into what's coming soon. Now, Rosie and I are very excited about this because, again, I think in the industry, these two pieces of features are going to make a massive, massive impact. They're coming very soon, so expect to see them within the next couple of weeks. But the first thing we want to touch on is a sneak peek of our new open API. So we have been working for the past couple of months on creating a very robust API for you and your team to use. It's based on GraphQL. Andrew is here to help answer any technical questions that we might have, so please put them in the chats if you do have any. But ultimately, the value that this is going to drive is connectivity. We know in the past, Athennian is a source of truth and it is a hub that we use for business intelligence data, but we also know that there are lots of other tools outside of Athennian that you rely on for either data points, for workflows, for key teams, for document storage, all kinds of things that don't necessarily always work well when you're trying to import, export, and send things through between the different data sources. We also know that different time zones and different teams moving around and expansion and growth and scale and all of that, that all impacts how well you use data, how accurate things are, what your processes look like. So we wanted to really help the team streamline this, create a lot of efficiency, and just kind of take the manual piece out of what it would take and cost your team to manage yourselves. So we've opened this API. It's going to apply to, I believe it's 6 sections, entities, people, addresses, affiliations, registrations, securities, but most importantly, the thing I want to mention is documents. It will send and receive documents. So it's read or write API. It can either send information to a system or a receiving system, or take information from Athennian and then add it to a system. So it works both ways. It is open, so if you have someone technical on your team that can build queries and that kind of thing, by all means, if you have the API as part of your package, it's professional or enterprise, you can build whatever you need to and update your queries as you go. There'll be API documentation in the app to support you. Andrew has been building amazing videos and help center documentation and all of that as well. We will be sending out an API landing page too that you can kind of go in and have a look at too. But if we think about this from a value perspective, let's say you had a data warehouse that needed to track a matter number or a client number, and you wanted that number to every month be imported into Athennian, or you wanted securities to be imported into Athennian in bulk on a set cadence. Maybe your CFO manages the securities in an Excel sheet, and at the end of every 2 months that needs to be sent to Athennian. Build a query, hit a button, and then it will import straight into Athennian. We can create entities, people records. Andrew has done a couple of tests where we know on average to create 4 entities, it takes about 7 to 8 minutes per entity, and that's excluding all the principal setup and adding the documents and all of that. With an Athennian API, it takes about 5 seconds to create the same amount. So if you think about that from a time savings perspective, it's huge. I know there are going to be a lot of questions from the team about what kinds of tools we can integrate with. Again, it's an open API, so there are no set integrations. It is open for you to use. And if you needed to integrate with a tool, we'd recommend setting up a little demo or a call with Andrew, the technical expert, and then he can kind of figure out exactly what works best for you and your team. So we're very excited. We already have 4 clients using this. They kind of wanted to pre-purchase it, but you will be seeing this very, very soon. So yeah, send through any questions you have. And again, that documents piece is huge because it's not often that you can send mass documents back and forth into an application. All right, the next thing we want to mention, which again, we're also very excited about, and I know Rosie is over the moon for this too. Tina is also another industry expert that works for us. She works with the fund ops team, and she's also very excited for this, but section level permissions. So today in the access section, you have a user role, a summary role, a read-only role, and an admin role. All of those have very set permissions. With section level permissions, we are going to give you the ability to create custom roles for your team. And not only a custom role, but a custom role that will only see what you decide they see. So if you have a tax person working for your team and you only want that person to see the tax information on an entity, the entity overview page, maybe they look at securities, you can minimize what they see in an entity to just those 2 sections and nothing else. And then you can extend that view through and give them either edit or read only view on that custom role. So if you have an attorney or a bunch of lawyers that you want to give access to the application and you only want them to see the entity overview in the minute book and you want them to have read only level permissions, you can set that up. With the custom roles, we'll as a team be managing the setting up of it for you in the back end. So you tell us what you need and then we'll build it. And we'll get to a place eventually after it's rolled out for a bit where you can manage it yourselves. But for now, you tell us what you need, which sections they see, and we can build that out in the app. We have some examples where we hide securities from, let's say, the HR team, or we hide the ownership charts from clients. Let's say you have a client view and you give all of them that access. Again, there's no limit to the amount of users that can access Athennian. So if you create groups of these users and you set aside a custom role for them and they come in and they only see maybe the ownership section or the principal section of an entity in the overview, that's all good to go and we can set that up for you. So we're really excited about this. This is going to be huge. It has been something that the teams have been asking for so long, and we're really excited about it. So Rosie, I'll hand it over to you. What do you think? Where would you use this? Can you think of examples of how you would kind of implement this in a workflow? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, 2 of the key things that come to my mind is working with different teams in different subsidiaries, different countries, for example. Sometimes we work with local teams. It would be great to have, and now we will very soon, to have them just work within the region, within the group of entities that they manage for a particular country, for example, and thinking about limiting the access to external service providers. For example, it's normal to work with local law firms, local COSEC service providers, and eliminating the use of emails so they can update information in real time on the section that they are meant and it's safely for them to work on, with us being sure that they're only seeing what they're supposed to see. That's a huge way. Not only it's a key feature that gives peace of mind to managers, to admins, to corporate secretaries working with across multiple jurisdictions, for example, but it's also critical to cut the information and allow this access to happen in a safe way to external service providers, for example.
Yeah, that's huge. That's spot on. And also, if you think about it too, like I'm just thinking about this now, but if you integrate the API with that as well, and you send through data updates and your teams have section level permissions, you'll not only be taking away that manual update and relying on, information, is it up to date, is it not? You'll know it's up to date. You'll know it's being sent back and forth. And then when your teams access, they will see what's needed. So you're right, across, like with their global teams, if you have a team in Australia that works on a different time zone to you can rest assured that when they sign in, what they see is relevant to them and it's accurate, which is huge. Yeah, that's awesome. We're very excited. It's available again, professional and enterprise. Let us know if you're interested in this. We will be releasing the firm launch date of this very, very soon. As soon as we know, we will communicate it to the teams, but feel free to reach out to client success as well if you're interested. And then we will keep you posted.
Yeah, and Charlotte, I just thought about a couple more critical things. So auditors, having a section that can be shared confidently, securely with auditors, that's great. Again, it reduces a lot of step communication, and for processes like M&A due diligence, having access to the different key stakeholders that's going to have access to the information, just information pertaining that particular merger acquisition. Again, those are great use cases for this section level permission as well.
Yeah, actually, on that note too, 100%, because even if you think about the way our document section is laid out and minute books, very often, and I've just thought of this now, very often clients want to show the minute book, but they don't want to see the document section because those are in progress. You're signing things, maybe the finance team has a folder that they don't want to share. You can give them access to just the minute book. They don't see the document section, that's kind of hidden, or vice versa. So it's really, really customizable. You can tailor it really well. And yeah, again, also when you use it, please give us feedback. If there's anything you want to see additionally, it's only available on entities right now, as far as I'm aware. If you want to see it on people or anything else, keep us posted, let us know, send us feedback, and then we can fine tune and refine the features as we go, because we want to make these better as well. But yeah, and thank you, Rosie. Those are some good points too. I didn't think about the mergers and acquisitions. That's a good point. All right. So now I'm going to hand it over to Rosie. I want to kind of dive into, we've touched on this on every slide, but I want to dive into the value this will bring your teams. Again, we mentioned in the beginning, it's one thing selling a feature, but it's really, really nice to see how it will work with your workflows. So Rosie, with that said, let's jump into your first slide, which you wanted to touch on, this KYC request. How will this bring value in a scenario like this?
Yeah, again, and we mentioned this, but this is just to illustrate how on a common process, we can bring some of these new features into place and how these features will enhance the process. So for example, I like to put the focus on a specific process. In this case, it's going to be opening the request to open a new bank account. So let's say this is coming from a treasury team, internal treasury team, and their access level maybe is just on general subsidiary information and they don't have access to sensitive documents like PII, for example. So they will create a task on Athennian. They'll assign it to a legal ops or a legal team to request the rest of the KYC information that they need to open this bank account. They're going to share the purpose, being in this case the opening of the bank account, and the deadline, so everybody's aligned on how fast and when they need to share this information. So this triggers then the task for legal team, and legal team will usually have a full access to the subsidiary, the entity's information, will have full access to the KYC documents, and some people within this team will have access to the personally identifiable information. So they will gather the required documents from the local subsidiary where the bank account is going to be opened for, things like certificate of incorporation, articles of incorporation, the proofs of ID for the directors or the signatories for this bank account, business licenses, tax ID, beneficial ownership declaration. Sometimes the banks will get creative and ask for intercompany agreements or resolutions authorizing the opening of the account. So legal team will gather all this information, And sometimes they will need the help from local service providers to, for example, legalize, apostille, translate some of these documents. So they can then open temporary access with the sectional access level to external service providers to exchange the information, to give them access to the documents so they can work on the execution of the documents and then put them back in a folder that is shared on Athennian. And then once the legal team has everything they need, they will then close this access once they instruct the local service provider to mail these executed documents directly to the bank, and then provide temporary access to the treasury team to the scanned documents, for example, so they can send everything to the bank by email, and this will close a very successful KYC request with all the roles and permissions and all the securities in place. So that was one example. And I have another example to share. I'm sorry. Yes, so this is more about the use of editing of the charts and also viewing the different ownership in different metrics in cash, shares, or percentages. So in this particular workflow, and this is probably happening at a private equity firm where there's some work around coming up with a new strategy. The financial analysis team gathers information from Athennian. They gather data on share capital or cash capital, percentage capital based on what they want to track or convey. They present these findings and support with a detailed structured chart for strategy and development team to review. And then this strategy and development team prepares some proposals for the executive teams to review, and they can work on all this information to streamline it, edit it on Athennian, select what's the information they want to show. So the information, it's more high level. They can show the big picture so the executive teams don't get caught up on the details. And then they present it to the executive team in a way that makes sense at the right level for the executive team, for example, to approve or disapprove this capital planning or this allocation that has been proposed by a strategic or development team.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's very detailed overviews too, and it's very real life, right? Like it's relatable. And I think as well, the structure charts, the minute book, the different levels of access, the permission setting, the PII information, all of that can come into play in all of those processes. Like you said, Rosie, it can kind of hit each stage really well. And the more you use it, the more robust your process becomes. So we're excited, and I'm sure that it will fit into more scenarios as well. But I think that these do hit the kind of the value of each feature pretty spot on. So with that, thank you, Rosie. With that, we're kind of wrapping up everything that is coming and has come. We have some news as well. Feature releases are now shifting to a bi-weekly cadence. So usually it's been every week. That's been very quick. And we know for some clients, it takes time to get used to some changes. So we're moving to a bi-weekly schedule. So you can expect changes to the application every Thursday night. I believe it's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but every 2 weeks. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to manage. The features are going to be exciting. You can kind of get used to everything as it goes. We'll do in-app updates and releases and all of that. So for tomorrow, you will notice updates in the system. Tomorrow, February 29th, will be our one release date. And then the next date will be March 14th at the same time. So you can expect it at that cadence. Additional to that, we will be doing a webinar like this on the first Tuesday of every month. So every month you will see new features coming. We'll talk about what is released, what else is coming. It'll give you a bit of a better idea of what to expect. So we'll be sending out all the communications in the news for that. Next one is set for April 2nd. So look out for that date. And that invite, pin it in your calendars. We'll be making this more common so that you guys can join us and kind of participate in us growing the product. All right, that brings us to Q&A. So I'll pause there. I'll have a look at the questions that have come through. Please send through any questions that you have. They're anonymous as well. So if you want to ask something anonymously as well about any of the features, feel free to. I'd be curious what everyone thinks. And we'll take about 5 minutes to see what has come up. Let's see what's in here.
Charlotte, I've answered the API questions, and so there's just a few other questions here.
Amazing. Could you read some of the API questions, Andrew, as well, that you have kind of gotten, maybe the short ones?
Yeah. So the first one I have here, with the open API, will Athennian have the ability to connect to FinCEN for CTA compliance reporting? Our API will be able to support CTA use cases. We also are considering building an integration that would further enable this. So yes to that. And the second question here, how does the API feature help a publicly traded company track outstanding shares? So our API will support the core Athennian securities data. For example, you could automatically create and maintain external reporting, an integration for external reporting for those that need to see this data in exactly the way you want. So eliminating some of that slow manual reporting work that no one wants to do. So
yeah, that's awesome. It'll do the math as well, I believe. So it'll show you outstanding, cap table, all that kind of stuff. And it also works with the shared classes. So based on your workflow and your needs, we can kind of have a bit of a demo, walk you through what exactly that would look like. I know Andrew will be able to build something up for you. So feel free to reach out to our team if you want something more detailed as well.
yeah, and that's what I have so far for the main priority questions that we answered. So if we want to take some time for some of the other ones, that would be great.
Perfect. I've got one here. It's a question regarding structure charts. Is it possible to inverse the ownership view to show the shareholders of a corporation instead of the ownership of the corporation, and that it has in other entities? I believe we would be able to see upward and downward connections up to a certain point. So if you are meaning entities outside of the connected, we might need to look at that. But in terms of upward and downward, we show full upward, full downward. We also show upward direct and downward direct and upward. So we can tweak that based on the filtering. And then with the extra hiding levels, we can kind of remove and add pieces as needed to fulfill a request. But I would also reach out to your client success team. Maybe if we have a look at exactly which entities you want to see in the application, how it structures and securities and how that pulls through, we'll be able to help too, but we should be able to show full upward and downward. Let's see, there is one here. Are you working on enabling CTA, BOIR, e-filing directly from Athennian? I believe it kind of came up. We are looking at different options. So we have this open API. We're looking at different partnerships, and we're looking at where exactly would make most sense for us to help with this workflow. Right now, with our API, you can send ultimate beneficial ownership reports straight through. You can also send the data straight through as well. So there is a way for us to work with that workflow and kind of do all the submissions. We can also read tags, things like that. So if it's exempt, non-exempt, we'll be able to read the workflows as needed. But it's definitely something we'll look at and kind of help you build out if you are interested in using it for something along those lines. There is one question. I won't say the name, but it's one of my old clients. It's great to have you on the call. She's asked, has any consideration been given to allow for filtering out of non-voting shareholders in structure charts? It's something we're considering. We are always considering improving our charts. So we're looking at it. There are a lot of filtering and editing things that will be coming over the next few weeks as well, in addition to what we've seen. So keep that feedback coming, but non-ownership is a big thing. Right now we show trustees, partners, and any kind of managers from LLCs as well. But for the non-voting piece, it's definitely something we need to look at when it kind of pulls through in share classes. So we can take that one away as well and follow up with your client success manager too to make sure it's tracked. But we are actively looking at improving charts as we go, so all feedback is welcome. There's another one. Charlotte West, can we please get your email address? We'll be sending out all the comms. You're more than welcome to reach out to the team. We're all here to help. So we're happy to meet as need be, but we'll send out a little email. And if you want to get in touch, reach out. I'd be more than happy to meet up. Are there any plans to add filters to charts for voting, non-voting equity, as well as quantum of share ownership and not just percentage? Again, yes, absolutely. We're looking at this. We are always looking at improving it. There are a lot of use cases that have come up for funds, how you kind of find where capital is coming from when you're looking at funds, how we play this all out in the charts. Can we edit names afterwards? So we're taking all of that, we're gathering it together and seeing what makes most sense for updates as we go through the sequence of the updates. But again, please send that feedback through because we'll track it. We'll make sure we keep an eye on things. And with that feedback, we may even reach out to you and say, hey, would you be willing to test a couple of these features for those scenarios early on before they're even ready to see what you think, if you'd ever be interested in that kind of partnership. Let's see if there's quite a lot of questions. It's amazing. Are these features that were discussed today, i.e. personal identifiable info, overview, and list customizations, currently available? If yes, are these instructions available on how to manipulate these features? So for today, everything that we have launched, PII, the custom overview and the list customizations is available. Yes, there is help center documentation available as well. When we launched these features, you would have noticed a little new pop-up tag in the application that had videos walking you through everything. So if you're not seeing them, you may not be on the right plan. I would get in touch with the client success manager because they're all live. It may require a slight upgrade, or it might be that you have the right plan and there's just a bit of an add-on that we need to tweak to turn it on for you. But those three are live and currently available. The custom role and API is still coming. So that will be announced as soon as it's live in the next, I would say, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Keep an eye out for that, but the others are all available. All right, with the ability to restrict access at the user level, has there been any discussion around making the minute book restrictable? Resolutions and minutes may contain sensitive information that should not be shared with and or seen by non-C-suite team members. Great question, and yes, there has been discussion around this. We do know that document level access is something that is critical. Very often, as a team, you're probably working on different types of documents, and those documents all have different types of information on them that you have permission to see, but maybe not everyone else. So in terms of the minute book and restricting that, with the section level permissions, we will be able to restrict the full minute book. There might be a way for you to solve this problem with getting documents and minute book sections kind of set up individually when it comes to different access. But in addition to that, document level access is something we're actively looking at. A couple of our clients may have noticed about 4 weeks ago, we sent through an in-app survey just asking for feedback on how you use documents, how you use folders, if you'd like to lock them, what your use cases are, what you kind of run into in terms of pain points. I've collected all that data with my team as well. And so it's there for us to review. So we are looking at that. And if you're interested as well in being kind of a test case for something or open to a beta, again, reach out to us. We'd love to get our clients to test things out in advance as we're developing, because it helps us iterate things really well. And then there's a bunch of others. I can't hear you. My computer is not working. I hope you've sorted all of that out. And okay, there is some additional feedback as well. So again, please feel free to send everything through. I think that's most of the questions. Julie has said these update sessions are great. It would be nice if you could do little demos to show the enhancements in use. Totally agree. We'll be doing that in app, Julie. So every 2 weeks as these come out, you're going to see videos and walk you through the updates when you sign in on that Friday morning. So keep an eye out for that as well. And then if it's something that is available that you might not have on your plan, again, you can reach out to your client success manager and we can walk you through it. But we are on that. We're making some big changes. And then as we roll this out monthly, we're going to be pretty on point with keeping everyone up to date. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. We'll kind of end the Q&A there. I know we have a little bit of time left, but it's pretty much all the questions. Just as housekeeping, a reminder, we will send you an email with a link to download the full deck. So feel free to get in touch with us if you want to chat to anyone or speak to anyone. The recording will be available as well. And then we're going to send you that survey. So please send your feedback through. We really appreciate hearing from you guys. And we hope you feel valued with all the updates we're pushing through because we do want to make a difference in your workflows. So that's it for today. We'll stay in touch. We have our LinkedIn connections. But other than that, thank you for joining us, and we will be in touch in a month, April 2nd. Save the date.